You are sitting in a quiet room when it happens. A sudden, unprovoked surge of energy rises in your chest. Your heart beats faster for no visible reason. There is no news yet. No phone call has arrived. Nothing in your physical environment has changed. But your body is reacting as if something wonderful just occurred. Most people dismiss this as a random spike of dopamine or a passing mood. They wait for the world to give them a reason to feel that way. But have you ever noticed that the event you're waiting for often follows the feeling rather than causing it? We have been taught that emotion is a reaction to our circumstances. The reality is far more mysterious. That sudden spark of excitement is not a random glitch in your biology. It is a sophisticated internal radar detecting a shadow cast by the future. We have all experienced those rare days where every green light stays open for us. Conversations flow effortlessly. New opportunities seem to drop out of the thin air. In these moments, we feel a lightness in our chest that tells us everything is working. But just as quickly, the tide can turn. We find ourselves pushing against life, met with friction at every corner. Why do these shifts happen so suddenly? We often assume these waves of luck or resistance are external, governed by chance. Yet when we look closer, a strange pattern appears. The feeling of ease always starts within us before the world reflects it back.
We tend to overlook this subtle order because we are busy reacting to the results. We wait for the good news to justify our joy, unaware that we may have misinterpreted the signal entirely. This pattern appears more often than we realize, suggesting a hidden rule at play. Understanding this mechanism changes the way we see every impulse we feel. By the end of this exploration, you may begin seeing these signals everywhere. We usually categorize our lives into good days and bad luck. We treat these cycles as if they are weather patterns we simply have to endure. But have you ever noticed how specific these cycles actually are? On some days, you make a random decision to take a different route, and you run into exactly the person you needed to see. An idea flashes into your mind, and an hour later you see that very concept mentioned in a book. This is where the pattern becomes clear. These moments of high synchronicity almost always arrive when you are feeling a specific sense of unforced excitement. Conversely, have you ever noticed how quickly the flow can disappear? The moment you begin to doubt or overanalyze, the green lights turn red. The momentum stalls. We often misinterpret this as the world suddenly becoming difficult, but the repetition suggests something deeper is at work. The same effortless alignment happens again and again across different years and different situations. It is a strange consistency that many people notice, but few truly examine.
It suggests that our reality is not a series of random collisions, but a response to a signal we are already sending. We have been conditioned to see excitement as a reward, something that happens after we achieve a goal or receive good news. We treat it as a secondary effect of our success. But this is exactly where we misinterpret the signal. What if the feeling isn't the result of the event, but the reason the event is able to reach you? This is where the experience begins to make sense. Excitement is not just a mood. It is a biological translation of a frequency. It is your physical body's way of telling you that you are currently aligned with a version of yourself that already possesses what you desire. This reveals something important about how reality works. The sensation in your chest is a literal resonance, much like a tuning fork vibrating when it nears another of the same pitch. You feel the thrill before the event manifests because on a non-physical level, you have already collided with it. The teaching is far simpler than we usually expect. You are not creating a new reality through effort. You are simply using your excitement as a compass to navigate toward a reality that already exists. This is the hidden rule behind the experience. Reality does not happen to you. It is a series of static frames that you navigate through based on your current frequency. Think of your consciousness as a radio tuner. When you feel that spark of excitement, you are essentially spinning the dial to a specific station. On that station, the music you want to hear is already playing. The green lights, the perfect timing, and the sudden breakthroughs are simply the programs broadcast on that particular frequency. This explains why the flow disappears the moment we ignore the signal.
When you choose anxiety or doubt over that initial spark, you are manually turning the dial to a different station. You haven't lost the good reality. You have simply tuned yourself out of the range where those events exist. This mechanism has been operating in your life the entire time, even in the most ordinary moments. Every impulse is a directional pointer. Following the excitement is like inputting a destination into a navigation system. You don't need to build the road or move the mountains. You only need to maintain the coordinates. Suddenly, the pattern makes sense. The delay we perceive is just the time it takes for our physical senses to catch up to the station we've already tuned into. If the mechanism is this simple, why do we find it so difficult to follow? This is the moment the inner voice begins to argue. We experience a surge of excitement, a clear internal yes, and almost immediately, a second wave follows. This second wave is made of logic, caution, and social conditioning. We have been taught to equate safety with predictability and struggle with worthiness. This is where many of us lose the signal. We misinterpret our fear as being realistic and our hesitation as being responsible. We often mistake this internal resistance for wisdom or maturity, believing that if something feels too exciting, it must be impulsive or dangerous. How many times has a cold calculation silenced the warm signal of your excitement? When we choose the logical path over the resonant one, the friction we described earlier returns. The flow stops because we have prioritized a belief in struggle over a belief in alignment. This is where excitement is replaced by doubt, and the radio dial slips back into the static of the mundane. Have you ever noticed yourself doing this, talking yourself out of a flash of inspiration? If you've experienced moments where logic killed your momentum, I'm curious to hear how that felt in the comments. Even though the mind often interferes with its layers of caution, there is a simple way to begin shifting your alignment today. This is not about dramatic life changes. It is a method of responding to the signal in real time. First, look at the options available to you right now and notice which one carries even a tiny spark of more excitement than the others. It could be as simple as a book you want to read or a walk you feel like taking. Second, act on that excitement to the best of your ability, taking it as far as you naturally can until you hit a wall.
Third, and most importantly, release all attachment to what the outcome should look like. This is where the navigation begins. By following the thread of excitement without forcing a specific result, you are telling the mechanism that you trust the signal. This is how the shift in your timeline actually starts. The process works best when followed with curiosity rather than pressure. If you treat it as a light-hearted experiment, you remove the resistance that usually blocks the flow. If this perspective resonates with you, consider subscribing for more explorations into the mechanics of reality. Your support helps these insights reach those who are looking for them. The signal usually appears in small, quiet moments that are easy to dismiss. Imagine you are working on a routine task when a sudden, unprompted curiosity about an old friend crosses your mind. It feels light and interesting, so you act on it. You send a brief message just to say hello. An hour later, they reply, mentioning a project they are starting, one that perfectly aligns with the problem you've been trying to solve for months. This is often how the shift begins. The change rarely starts with something dramatic like a lightning bolt. It starts with the simple act of choosing the different route home or finally opening that book that has been calling to you from the shelf. You may have already experienced dozens of these moments without realizing their significance, dismissing them as mere coincidence. But have you ever noticed how a single, random decision can change the entire direction of your day? When you follow the small spark of excitement, you are essentially allowing the mechanism to reorganize your schedule. One minor action creates a ripple, leading you toward a person, a conversation, or an idea that wasn't visible from where you were standing just moments before. This changes the way we understand the experience of being alive. We often view our lives as a single, fixed line moving from the past into an unknown future. But the mechanism of excitement suggests something far more profound. It implies that the future is not a destination we are traveling toward, but a vast field of existing probabilities that we are currently tuning into. This suggests something remarkable about the nature of reality. Every time you feel that unprovoked surge of joy, you are not just having a feeling. You are experiencing a literal collision with a version of yourself that already exists. In this view, excitement is the language of your greater consciousness, acting as a sonar that maps out the path of least resistance through infinite versions of your life. Suddenly, the pattern reveals a deeper meaning. You are not waiting for your life to begin. You are navigating through a multi-dimensional map where every state of being is already present. How different would life feel if we treated excitement as a navigation signal from a self that has already arrived? You may already be standing at the threshold of this realization in your own life, noticing that the more you trust the signal, the more the world seems to rearrange itself to meet you. Perhaps the signal has been there all along, waiting for the moment you stop treating it as a random emotion. As you move through the rest of your day, you may begin to notice a new clarity in the impulses that arise. The patterns of flow and resistance that once seemed like luck will start to reveal their underlying structure. Sometimes the shift begins simply by noticing that you are never truly without a map. Every small curiosity and every flash of unprovoked joy is a whisper from a reality that is already calling you toward it. How might life change if you began listening more closely to the thrill that arrives before the event? The journey of understanding how these internal signals interact with the world around you is only beginning. If you are curious about the deeper mechanics of how your beliefs specifically shape this radar, the exploration continuing on your screen dives further into that mystery. It reveals exactly what happens to the physical world when you consistently choose the frequency of your highest excitement.